Okay, so we're here with part 2, and to prevent this video from being 40 to 50 minutes long, I'm just going to go ahead and, instead of typing everything out, I'm just going to go ahead and just show you how everything works. And I'm going to leave the project file to this whole project in the description of this video, where you can also see where the link is to part 1, and also my Discord and Twitter if you want to contact me or have any questions about anything. Alright, so first I'm going to start off by looking at the chest script. It is the exact same that I left it at from part 1, except for this line and this line. These are just extra checks, one of them being a function that I put on the client, and the other one being just a check with the variable to make sure that the player that currently opening is consistent with the one that died. And that's so. I'll just go over this one really quick. We just have variables for the click detector, chest, doors, the ID. We have a bunch of code that says how it should look like by default, and then we have the current player variable. When the click detector is clicked, we're going to check to see that what this does is it's a function that I put on the client, which can be seen right here. It's at the top, and all it does is just return this variable, chest occupied, and chest occupied starts off as false. So the player starts out not currently occupied on a chest, and later you'll see in the script chest occupied can actually change to true if the player's already opened a chest, and it can also be set to false when it is not. That is basically to make sure that the player does not open 2 chests at the same time, because you wouldn't want that to happen. Okay, going back. So yeah, we're just making sure that the player does not already have a chest opened, and then making sure the health is above 0. If changing the open variable, changing the door properties, setting the current player, and then taking that player and sending the remote event for chest open. And then in the event that the player dies, we have something that changes the doors again. And in the event that the chest is asked to close by the server event, chest closed, then it also closes the chest. So that's the chest script. Server goes inside of the click detector right there, and that's about it for that. So we're gonna look at these 2 events now, and we'll start with this one. Chest open. It is on the Fire client, so it's going to be on the client script. In the client, you'll see that I added a chest items table and a player items table. This is to keep a data information of what are the current chest items, what are the current player items, so that we can display them later. Chest occupied false, you already saw that. If we go down past this and past this, you'll see the chest open event. So in the event that chest open is fired, it's going to check to see if chest occupied is already false, which is similar to that previous check we saw. Chest occupied equals true. It's going to clone the GUI and put in the player GUI. It's going to find the exit button, and in the event that the X button is clicked, We're going to destroy the GUI and set chest occupied to false. We're going to do local get chest items, which is a function on the server, and the server actually already knows, it already has a table for every single chest and all of the items in that chest. So right here we have local chest items on chest server, and if we look down, function get chest items, it needs to know the player that sent it, and then it needs to know the chest ID of the chest we're looking for. So it goes, the items table is going to be chest items, which is this, and then it's going to look for chest ID. So basically the chest kind of looks like this. It's got chest IDs, so we'll put like, that's an ID, and this is a table, another table inside, and then it's got multiple of these for every single chest that you have. So it's a comma, like that, and that's kind of like what this chest items array might look like. This table. I'll set this one to 2, this one to 3. It's whatever the ID you set here. So right here I have 1, but that could be a name or any type of string for that matter. And then inside here there's going to be names of the items. So maybe like brick, sword, like that. So what the get chest items, where is it? Oh, sorry. Get chest items. Local items equals chest items chest ID. So it's going to find the chest ID. In this case, it might be 1001, and then it's going to take this table, and then this table is going to become items. And then if the player exists, just a quick check. Now we're going to return the items. So I'm going to delete this. Go back to chest client. So now, if we look here, local get chest items equals the function or nil. So if this returns true, then the items table that got sent back will now become get chest items. If it comes back, then it's gonna work. If not, it'll be nil. So now if get chest items does not equal nil, so that's a if check. Now chest items equals get chest items. So now what we've gone is from the chest ID, the items inside, we put it in this variable items, then we returned it, then it got put here. Now it's in chest items, which is the main one all the way up at the top of the client. And then literally the same exact thing but for player items. Get player items, it's very similar, except it's a little bit more complicated because the server doesn't exactly have a table right away for what items a player does and doesn't have. For the chest, it's easy because we just have chest items. We just have a table that already has everything. For players, you actually have to local player items is a backpack. We're gonna get the children of the backpack, and we're also gonna find the tool the character's currently holding. So to do that, we just do player.backpack get children, so all the children in the backpack, and then player.character : find first child, which is and then in quotation marks tool. So we're gonna find a tool inside of the character if it exists. If character tool exists, then we're gonna insert into the table player items. So in player items, we already have all the children of the backpack, and then we're just going to add the character tool if it exists. So table insert player items, number of player items plus 1, which is just going to add it all the way to the end, and then the character tool in question. So this is what it might look like. When we get player items, the local player items, let's say a player has a brick and a rocket in his backpack. So local player items will become a table like that, and then it will say brick rocket, like that. And 1 second. So that's what it will become. That's a table. Whenever you use get children, it just returns a table of, in this case, it can be player items. Now, local character tool, if the player is not currently holding a tool, this is just going to return nil. So it might be nil, but it also might be an item. So in this case, it might be what is it? Sword, right? So it could be this, it could be something, it could be some sort of item. In the case that it is nil, then this won't work, because if character tool, then that's basically saying if this is not nil, if there's something here, then let's continue with this. Otherwise, let's not do that. So in the event that it is something, like let's say sword, if character tool, then sword, local character tool becomes sword, player items becomes this table. So you can see how this makes sense. Table.insert, this is the table we want it to insert to. This is the table. The position that we want to place it in is the number of player items, which is here, if we count brick and rocket, that's going to be 2. Plus 1 is going to end up being 3, so it's going to insert into the third slot. So it's going to open up and insert a third slot like that, and then what to insert? It's going to be the character tool, which was whatever tool is here. So it's going to add it like that, sword. And then the final player items will now look like this, and then it's going to return player items. So I'm going to delete all of this. And going back to the client, now we've got local chest, we've got chest items updated, and we've got our player items. Now we're going to run 2 functions on the client itself. So not a remote function, but just a client that's or a function that's local to the client. Here we have update chest items and update player items, which are here and here. Now these look fairly long and complicated, but there's nothing really too much going on other than just doing a for loop and just placing every button in the GUI. So they're both actually really similar to each other, because they both kind of do the same thing, except one, chest items, puts it in the chest item slot, player items puts it in the player item slot. So let's see, update chest items, update player items. Let's go to these functions, just look at them real quick. Update chest items, it's going to be sent the array, the GUI, and the chest ID. So here I put get chest items, which is the array that I want to send. It's the array of all the strings of the items. The GUI, which is right here, local GUI, the clone that we put in, and then chest ID, the ID of the chest. It doesn't actually need to be used to put the buttons in place, but it needs to be carried over when it comes time to click those buttons and tell the server what chest we're getting items from, and so forth and so on. So if GUI, then local text buttons equals GUI get descendants. So I'm going to look into my Explorer tab, and let's actually take a look at the GUI. If we go to GUI, this is the GUI, and then get descendants, it's going to get everything inside of the chest UI. So the frame, this, and this. If now for I, the number of text buttons. So let's say there's, I don't know, like 16 items. It'll run this through 16 times, and then local text button equals text buttons I. Now it's going to go if game.collection service has tag chest item, then we're going to destroy that. Now things will get this tag of chest item if they are part of this later. I should have really just shown you this part first, but basically it's going to delete anything that has to do with anything that was previously generated. So when it's updating chest items, this part actually deletes all of the buttons that were there before that aren't part of the default GUI. So it doesn't delete exit button, it doesn't delete these two text labels. But when you're dealing with this GUI and you have to constantly update the chest items, there's already going to be like, I'll add a button right here, text button, and it might say like sword or something like that. It's going to have right here game.collection service add tag item button chest item. When item buttons are created and they get put in here, I'm gonna add the tag chest item using the collection service. Then when it comes time to update again, anything that already has this tag chest item, it's gonna get deleted like so. So moving on, if the GUI doesn't exist, we're gonna have to return and just nullify the whole thing. But normally that won't happen. Alright, and then here's the main for loop. For I equals 1, number of items in the array. So if we go back to our first array where we had a sword, a brick, and a rocket or whatever, the number of items in the array would be 3. So this would be 3, and it would iterate 3 times. So for each of these items, it's going to say the item is the array and then the index, so that may be 1, it might be 2, it might be 3. So the first time through it'll take the first index, the second time through it'll take the second index, third time through. So the first one might be brick, second one might be rocket, third one will be sword, whatever. And then item button is we're making a new item button, instance.new, it's a text button, and it's going to be placed in the GUI.frame, so right in here. Change the name of it. I actually use the index for the name. The text that goes for it would make sense to use the item so that it reads whatever that button corresponds to. Then this is just size, position, and then adding the tag. When this button is clicked, here I'll pause right here for a second and just show you that update player items is literally this exact same thing, except that now it uses the player items array. So deleting all previous buttons with certain tags, then creating new ones, and just size and position. Size is about the same, position just changes it so that I have it set up so that it works with my GUI. This will, have to vary. Can't really go into depth explaining this one, but here is where it gets a little bit different though. These item buttons, you can see for the chest items, I made a local index variable which takes the item button, that name, which was this I right here, and just changes it back to a number. And now we're gonna fire a remote event on the server called move chest item. I give it the array, the index, and the chest ID. And we're going to look at that right now. So if we look at the chest server, move chest items, It's pretty simple. All it does is says that here's the array index and chest ID again, but with the addition of player, so we know who sent it. Local tool equals replicated storage dot items array index clone. So I'm gonna break this down by starting from the absolute deepest point, which is the index. Remember, this is the number that corresponds with the item, and it's going to be the same as here. So if the sword button got the index of 3, then this will be 3 if you click on the sword button. So it's going to take the third one. It's going to take the third index of that array that we sent, and it's going to go into replicate storage.items and find that and clone it. So if we look at replicated storage, I look at items, it's going to say, okay, the third item in array is sword or whatever, or brick, and then we're going to find brick inside of items inside of replicated storage. So brick inside of items, and then we're going to clone it. If the tool exists, then tool.parent equals player.backpack. So we actually moved it we actually cloned it from the server, the replicated storage, and we placed it inside of the client. Then we're gonna use table.remove to remove that. That item from that chest, from the chest items chest ID table, and new chest table will become chest items chest ID. Then update chest items fire client player. So we actually use update chest items here as well, but it's a little bit different. Remote events update chest items fire client. If we go to client and we go scroll down to here, remote events update chest items on client event connect. We get the table and the chest ID. Chest items equals new chest table, and local GUI equals player GUI find first chest GUI. If the GUI exists, now we're gonna run the update chest items GUI that we just became familiar with, which is up here. So basically, when we click on an item button that we put in the chest GUI, it's gonna fire this move chest item. Move chest item is gonna delete the item from the table in the server, and it's gonna move the item to the player backpack. Then it's gonna update the chest GUI so that it's now accurate, because we're gonna remove all the buttons, then we're gonna add all the new ones, and the result is that if you clicked on brick, now brick's not gonna be there anymore because you removed it. Then whenever chest item is moved, now we have to get player items again. So to keep it accurate and consistent, it's the same thing. Run the function get player items. If it does not equal nil, then player items equals get player items, and update the player items. So keep it consistent. Else, if all goes wrong and this doesn't work, then just close the chest and destroy the GUI, so nothing too bad happens. But usually this is not supposed to run right here. It's just this to keep it updating it consistent. And then update player items is basically the same thing as this, but the inverse, with a little bit more. First, when you click on a player item button on using mouse button one click, the first thing we do is actually just make that item dot player item button dot visible equal to false. Then we do local get chest items and invoke server, and then we look inside the chest items, and we run another function to get max items from the server. So get max items, real simple. It's right here, I'm pretty sure. Maybe it's on the bottom. Get max items. If player, if chest items, chest ID exists, then local count equals max items. Return count. Really, I should just say return max items. I don't know why I did this, but it's okay. And max items is right here at the top. This is where it's declared. I have it at 5. And that just decides the maximum number of items that a player can put in a chest. So it's actually necessary that when a player clicks on a button, we actually go check to see if the maximum number of chest items is already met, if that quota is already met, before we actually move it to the move the player item to the chest item, or the chest table, chest side, because otherwise you'd be placing 6 items when the max is 5. You don't want that. So if the number of items that we got from get chest items, so this is number of items in the chest, is greater than or equal to max items, then we gotta make player.item.visible back to true. So we don't actually do anything. It's like when you click on it, it's gonna disappear for a second, but then it's gonna come right back because it can't go. It's not. There's already max items. We're already maxed out, and then we're gonna return to diminish the whole function. Else. So basically else, right? There's no else here, but since it's outside of the end, this is, and there's a return here that makes this essentially an else. So basically, if get chest items is less than the max items, then we're going to continue. Chest items up here. So client chest items is equal to get chest items, which is the table that we got from the server. So basically updating it again. So just updating the chest items. And then in the event that get chest items was nil to begin with, again, chest close, fire server, GUI destroy, chest occupied equals false. This is not supposed to run, but it is just kind of a backup just in case if this goes wrong. Let's see. And then now we have a new function right here. Move player item, fire server. So we get the index of the player button item similar to how we did it up here, except now instead of move chest item, it's move player item. And it's literally the same thing. Not the same thing, but a little bit more. Local tool equals array index. So we're using the index of the array to find the name of the tool. If player, and now we gotta check the player's backpack. See, for chest items, we just go to the replicated storage to get the item. For player items, we have to get it from the player. So if player.backpack has it, then we're gonna destroy it from the backpack. Else, if the player has it in their character, they're holding it, then we're gonna destroy it from the character. Then we use table.insert chest items, chest ID, same thing. Chest item, the position of the number of chest items plus 1, and then we're going to add tool.name. So, again, going back to the chest items, chest ID table, I'm just going to add it back real quick. We have the table again. We had that ID, right? Then we had that table, and then we had, right, some things or whatever. let's see, we're right here, right? Yeah. Chest items, chest ID table. The number of chest items plus 1, that's position, tool.name. So move player item. If the player was removing a brick, like if the tool in question was brick, then we'd remove brick from either his backpack or the character, and then we take that string and add it back. So let's say not brick, let's say rocket. It was a rocket. And that's basically how it's gonna work. Then the new chest table becomes chest items, chest ID, and then now we're gonna update chest items using the new chest table. Going back to client, chest items equals new chest table. If the GUI exists, then update chest items with this function again. When this is done, it's also gonna update the player items. So it's kind of like this huge one-to-one, like back-to-back functions that all fall on top of each other at the right time, depending on what needs to be done. And then that is it. That's it. When chest item buttons are clicked, it's just kind of like one big loop in a way. When chest item buttons are clicked, they get moved from the chest server, copied to the player, and then it updates the GUI so that the player can now click on it. And now it's on the player side, so now the player can click on it right here. When the player clicks on that, now it's going to update. Now it's going to remove it from the chest, or I'm sorry, add it to the chest on the server, and remove it from the player, and then update it again so that the buttons are now updated. So now let's actually stop looking at the code for once and play it so you can see exactly what I mean. So I have a starter pack of 5 items just to demonstrate. When I click on this chest here, actually I'm gonna go ahead and make sure these 2 chests have different IDs and that they both have the chest script correct, which they do. Okay, close these. And these 2 chests need to have different IDs if you want them to work separately. So I'm gonna give this ID. Yep, it has this one has 2, and I gave this an ID of 0001 or whatever. So okay, so we're good. These are 2 different chests with 2 different IDs, so they should work. If you click on one and then try to click on another, it won't like open 2 things, which is good. That's what you want. If I hit exit and then click on this one, it'll open that one instead. If I open a chest and then reset, it should still work when I come back to click on it. Okay. And if I click brick, which these are my player items and these are my chest items, as soon as I open the chest, it automatically ran that chest open event, right? And then it updated my player items. It got the items in my backpack and sent them to here. If I actually hold an item, it'll still, well, I actually can't hold an item and click on it at the same time, but if I like click on it and then whip it out right before it updates, you'll see that it actually got moved from the brick actually got moved from up here to down here, and that's because it does your backpack first and then your character. That kind of proves that it works. If I take the brick, unselect it, and then click it again, brick for some reason is now still on the bottom. Whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna try to do it with a slingshot or whatever. There you go, Katana. Now that's on the bottom. It kind of does it in a different order depending on how it's organized in your backpack, because it's not always going to be in the same order. But anyway, clicking on a player item will tell the server that you clicked on it, and it's gonna delete it from your backpack. And the server is now going to keep data that says that this brick is in the chest, and then it's going to automatically update once you've done all that. And then once you've updated it, it should now check that you have 4 items and display 4 items, and should check that it should receive that there is 1 item in the chest, and as a result it gives 1 item. And because of chest ID and how different chests have different IDs, and the data is actually separated, if I go to a chest with a different ID, click on it, there's no chest item. If I come back to the one that I actually inserted into, it's here. If I click on all of these items, I can place all of them. And I'm actually going to reset to give myself some more items. And I'm gonna demonstrate the max items function. Now I have 5 items here, 5 items here. If I try to click on one of these, it kind of like disappears for a second, but then it comes right back because it contacted the server and found out that the amount of items that is in the chest is actually equal to the amount of max is already equal to the max, so I can't add anything if I click on this. Alright, but I can actually take it out though, so it kind of goes off the screen, but that's okay. And then I can go in this chest and place this. So now I've got 2 chests working perfectly. If I reset, it works perfectly. I can't open both chests at the same time. I can't open the same chest twice. If I reset again, the GUI actually automatically deletes itself. Basically, no real problems at all. And that's it. That's basically how you use arrays. If I open the arrays and remote events, using remote events and remote functions to send arrays back and forth between the client and the server. Just going to open it one more time so that the client and server can communicate and have a working chest UI. So I hope that helped you. The project file for this whole thing is completely free. It's in the description. You can download it. It's a Google Drive file, I believe, or a Google Drive. That's what I use to store the files and upload them. Just download that, open it up using file open from file, and then just find it wherever you downloaded it, and you can open it. You can use it for whatever you want. You can use it for your games, for your own games, or your own learning experience, or just to play with it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It took a while to make this, like a lot of hours. I plan to make some more stuff, maybe not as complicated. I should really work on some beginner stuff, but for now, this is what I've got, and I'll see you in the next video.